Hello, my name is Chelsea and I'm here for my April book haul. This month I read 9 books, which is actually pretty good for keeping on par with my 100 book challenge that I'm trying to complete this year. I believe I'm up to 31 books for the year, which is about where I think I'm supposed to be. I think I'm like 1 book behind, so hopefully we'll catch up in May. So I guess let's just get into the books. The first book that I read is The Walls Around Us by Nova Rensuma. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars, which I don't just hand out willy-nilly. I really liked this book. It was unique, it was kind of creepy and, I don't know, macabre, and it definitely had a, like, Japanese horror movie feel to it. If you haven't read anything by Nova Rensuma, it is an experience, I guess to say. The basic story of it is the book is told from 2 girls' perspectives, and it's told from one girl who is kind of living the life that she dreamed she would live, being a ballerina and getting into Juilliard and everything, but the only thing that's kind of holding her back is the fact that her best friend was sent away to a detention center for a murder, and we don't really know much about it until the book progresses pretty far. And then the other perspective is a girl who is in the detention center, and you start to see that it's told from different timelines, and you're not really sure what's going on through the whole book until the end. And it's like a huge plot twist, and your mind's blown, and it's really, really good. I really enjoyed it. So 5 out of 5 stars for that one. The next book that I read was Vanishing Girls by Lauren Oliver. And I keep trying to give her a chance. I read through, I think I've read all of her books. I think I've read Before I Fall, the Delirium series, Panic, and this is her latest, Vanishing Girls. Some of her books, they're hit or miss with me. I feel like I enjoy some parts of them, and then by the time it's done, I'm just glad the experience is over. And I feel like I shouldn't feel that way about books, but I just keep trying to give her chances, and The Vanishing Girls just fell really short for me. I gave it only a 1 star out of 5 because it makes me really mad, but it's a story that I've read before, and once you know the plot twist in this book, you know it in every book. You'll identify it as you see it, and you're like, oh, okay, this is what's gonna happen. I'm not gonna get too much into the plot. I feel like a lot of people have read it recently, but if you liked We Were Liars, you would probably like it. If you like kind of darker contemporary stories, you'll like it. I just happened to not really connect with it because I've already read that story, and it kind of bothers me when almost an identical story is told twice, and I've already read it and appreciated the first one, and I can't appreciate the second one. So that's the only reasoning that I really had for the 1 star rating, is that it's not very original. The next book that I read is a book that I'm pretty sure everybody has read, and I don't know what took me so long to hop on this bandwagon, but I am so glad that I finally did, and that is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I finally read this. I think I was just kind of intimidated because it's a really long high fantasy read, and I've only recently gotten into high fantasy. I'd never really enjoyed it that much as like a teenager and early 20s, but everybody and their mom has told me to read this book, so I finally read it, and I am so glad that I did. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I'm pretty sure you don't need a summary on this, but it's just kind of a retelling of this guy's life up to a certain point. And I know that it continues in the next book, and the next book isn't even out yet, so now I have to wait impatiently for that, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to start The Wise Man's Fear next. So 5 out of 5 stars for this one. The next book that I read, I actually listened to, and that is The Signature of All Things by Elizabeth Gilbert. She is who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and that was one of the few books that I read last year that I was surprisingly impressed with. I feel like a lot of the huge #1 New York Times bestseller books I just don't mesh with. I don't really understand the appeal of a lot of them, to be honest. I really, really liked that one, so I wanted to give another one of her books a try, and I was kind of hesitant getting into this one because I know it's a historical fiction book, and I'm trying to broaden my horizons and read more historical fiction, and I'm kind of glad that I listened to this one, because I feel like if I had read it, I would probably have lost interest in it and not force myself to sit down and read it as much, but just listening to it while I'm driving or while I'm doing chores around the house and everything really helped to kind of get me in the atmosphere. But it's basically the life story of a woman told kind of in the Charles Darwin theory of evolution era, I guess. And it has a lot to do with botany and a lot to do with her just kind of coming of age, maturing, living life, and experiencing everything. I don't really know how else to describe that other than it's just the story of a woman's life. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It kind of was dry for a couple parts of the story, but I still appreciated everything that I learned from it. I feel like it was a fairly educational experience reading it. So I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read this month, I don't even really know if it counts as reading a book, and I already included it in my last video, but that's Hold Your Horses by Bonnie Timmons. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. It's just really adorable. It's just a really cute, quick, like, cartoon book. So I don't know if that counts as me reading it or not, but it's just a really cute book about little truths and facts about working with horses, which I appreciated because I have horses. And then I got to The Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, which I'm pretty sure every single person has read and reviewed this at this point, so I might be a little late on it. But, I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I feel like it could have been a lot better than it was, and I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in this. I've heard a lot of reviews of people who are just kind of meh about this book. It's not what I expected. I thought the writing was almost insulting, to be honest, how much they just kind of lay it all out for you. You're not left to interpret anything as far as character development or world development goes. I just felt like Victoria Aveyard just kind of was like, oh, I really don't like these people, move on with the plot. It didn't really give you time to figure out how a character felt about something. It just told you, and that was it. So I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. I honestly don't know if I'll finish the series. It was enjoyable for what it was. I like the cover. It looks pretty on my shelf, but all in all, this was just kind of a meh. The next book that I read was Fairest by Marissa Meyer. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. It was pretty good. I think everybody kind of knows what this is. It's just a prequel to the Lunar Chronicles series, which I have right here. It tells the story of Queen Lavanna and how she kind of got to be the way she is, which I always appreciate backstories. I feel like this easily could have just been like a prologue or something. I like the really pretty artwork that's on the inside part. But I enjoyed this for what it was. It was a quick read. I read it in like an afternoon, and I liked kind of getting back into the Lunar Chronicles world, but I want so much more. I cannot wait for winter. And the next book that I read is The Sin Eater's Daughter by, who is this? Melinda Salisbury. Salisbury, like the steak? Salisbury steak? Is that what that is? I think so. But first of all, look at this cover. It is so pretty. I like this book. It's pretty. I wish it were longer, but I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. This is honestly what I wanted Red Queen to be. I thought Red Queen would be more high fantasy based on the fact that it had like a crown dripping blood on the cover, and it just turned out to be another dystopian book. This is what I wanted it to be. This book was so good. No, this is a high fantasy book based around a girl who is essentially the executioner in the royal palace, castle. I feel like the world building in this was so good. It's told briefly so you don't lose interest in it, but it develops the religion, the politics, the whole history of the world really, really well. I really was impressed by this, and it kept me on my toes the whole time, and it has a little bit of a love triangle in it, but it's done well, because I am so sick of love triangles. I'm pretty sure everyone's sick of love triangles, but this one's kind of necessary, and it's not really, it's kind of forced into the story. And I really like where she went with this. So I'm really excited for the next one. I'm so sad that this is not a standalone because I want like a huge version of this book. I want this to just continue forever, and I have no idea when the next one's coming out, but it's probably forever from now, so that's sad. And the ninth and final book that I read this month was My Heart and Other Black Holes by Jasmine Warga. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. It definitely has a serious trigger warning for suicide. Just throwing that out there. But it's pretty much the story of a girl who is searching for a suicide partner, and she meets this guy, and that's kind of the start of their friendship, relationship, and it just kind of, it's a very quick story, but it's very dark. It's depressing. It's heavy. It's not one of those books that you're looking for a lighthearted summer read, to be honest. But I appreciated it for what it was. I feel like I've read a lot of books like that. I feel like it's one of those reads that was emotionally cathartic, to be honest, because you go into it knowing that it's going to be heavy and dark, and there's a lot of emotions that happen. There are a lot of feels. It's one of those books that I'm glad I read it. I don't know if I would say I enjoyed the experience because it was heavy, but it was good. It was a good read, so I would recommend it, but definitely know there's a disclaimer. There is a very heavy suicide trigger warning, considering that that is pretty much the topic of the whole book. So that's it. So those are the books that I read in April. There should be hopefully just as many in May. That's my goal anyway. We'll see how well that plays out. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!